Okay, we are here at the e-NABLE Education and New Members Monthly Meeting. And it looks like we've got some frequent flyers here. So thank you, Sarah, for kicking us off. And I know you just came from the town hall. I'd be curious about how the town hall went.
Um,
Good to see Jonathan here. Sarah, do you have any summary of how the town hall meeting before this went?
yeah, it went well. We reviewed hub posts, and yeah, it I yeah, everything is going well. Uh, Madison helped to facilitate an event with Onquan that was very successful. Um, we and also helped to secure some new funding for e-NABLE, which is great.
Cool.
And some people, there was some sharing of cases, and uh, yeah, we talked about Uganda a little bit at the end, and we also talked about the hub calendar. And there have been some issues with that, so we've been um, thinking about potential solutions. And Jonathan shared a new volunteering opportunity um, with an organization. I think it's called 3D Mobility, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. Very exciting. Well, lots going on. I know the Uganda initiative is becoming quickly the biggest single point of actual users that we can interact with. And it seems like they're scaling up, which is great.
Yeah, there was a problem that there I think volunteers were confused. There had been a request for volunteers to send $200 with uh, their devices, and like for shipping and having them fitted. And today uh, John clarified that that is not something that e-NABLE is comfortable with, and
Yeah.
we're looking for different solutions to that. But yeah, I think that continues to be an active program. So,
And Jonathan just sent
um,
over the new list for 3D mobility. Could you tell us a little bit about this? It seems like a great group.
Yeah, sure thing. So it is a organization very similar to e-NABLE. They have open cases and volunteers where you can sign up to be a volunteer. You submit a test print or evidence of a test print. They review it and then get approved. They have both their cases and their volunteers populated on the community map, which is a little bit different than how we do it. Obviously, we have kind of a separate repository for requests and then a separate repository for chapters. So they do it a little bit different, but
Wow, and
overall,
they have a ton going on.
yeah, overall, that it looks like a well-established device. Um, it doesn't sound like they do much customization, but they have some awesome documentation on how to assemble it, how to print it, that sort of thing.
And it is this mobility trainer, which is sort of like an walker wheelchair for children.
Mhm.
Very cool. And so all of their initiative is around this core device.
Correct.
Very cool. I have not heard of them, and their website is very nicely put together. Do you know how long they've been around?
I am not sure. So I recently found out about them. They sent an email to our uh, info@enable.com, I think, email, looking for connections in South America to help with, or maybe it was Mexico, to help with a couple open cases that they have.
Cool. Wow, and totally a different scale of fabrication too. 9 kilograms over 250 hours to assemble. Really interesting device. Yeah, they
And
were not
this
on my
is
radar either, but a really well put together community system.
Ian, it's Tom. I've been operating my 4 printers since Friday, working on building my first one. And
Cool.
I'm excited about it. There's a child with a need just maybe 20 minutes from me.
Amazing. Hyper local. How are you finding the device files themselves? How are they running?
They're very refined. The Probably the trickiest is using the new foam TPU to create some soft pads for the headrest and the seat. But I've had success. There's a bit of stringing, but that's mainly me and tweaking the settings uh, for the filament. Um, but yeah, it's really well done. Everything's going together really easy.
Really impressive. And tell me a little more about the platform as you're learning it. Is there an ability to customize? Is the customization mainly scale?
That's a good question. So it's ideally made for children between the ages of 1 and 8. It's a one size fits all kind of thing. Then here very recently, someone came up with a 4-inch expander. It's basically three pieces. One goes into the seat and two go into the backrest that widen it by 4 inches to give us some more capability as far as who it can serve. Um, but I think the idea is that limit the variations so that people can just crank these things out. And
Very cool.
yeah,
And then they're sort of all parts interchangeable.
they are. And they're all snap fit so that if something breaks, you can just easily take it all apart, reprint, put it back together.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing initiative. And the customization seems to be mainly in the color choice and design aesthetic to make it exciting.
Right. Right.
Wow. Very practical device. And I have not seen an open source movement with this scale of fabrication. It's really like an injection molded scale project.
It really is. I mean, so they're very sturdy and it's with minimal like infill, 15%, two walls. I mean, I someone did come up with a point 0.6 nozzle variant to save some of the time because that's
Yep.
pretty extensive. But yeah, I'm excited to get this put together and do my first donation.
Super cool.
And they are a charity, and they do their idea is that people will donate to them. They'll provide the base kits
Yep.
to the manufacturing, the makers. But I had asked John, could we submit a possible grant request? He asked me for me to interface out to him a little bit, like Jonathan's done. And I said, well, maybe we could offer an olive branch and see if there's maybe some funding we can help them out with for these kits to build more.
Very cool. Definitely a thing that our engineering program here would be interested too in learning more about.
Glad to share anything as I learn it. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great. Maybe at our next month, if you have something you could like show pictures of or like talk about the maker process. I think for like the education side and the new members might be interesting to hear the challenges and like issues you run into and the strong points of their documentation and things like that.
Absolutely. That'd be easy to do.
And we also are joined here by Stephen. Stephen, give you a second to introduce yourself and any topics you'd like to discuss.
Um, I'm a fairly new member. I've not been terribly active in the last year or two, but I've just recently finished my associate's degree, which is what I use part of my embodiment process. I'm a part of a makerspace, and right now I'm trying to find a way to incorporate their machines that they have into this organization and produce my first prosthetic at some point in the near future, probably in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Do you have a design that you're starting with?
I looked at one of the prototypes. It doesn't require one of the kits. I think it's called Survivos, the one that's all inclusive. But right now, I'm looking at the Phoenix as well. So I'm
Yep.
probably going to look at that one first, since that's the base. That's the one that one prefers.
And I know kit availability. I've seen some posts go by that they're not available currently. You can still source all the parts. It's just easier. And
Mhm.
really, you only need a couple parts. I think like
Mhm.
the foam is very nice if you're fitting to an individual. It has like the right type of foam. The string is very nice, but you can also buy like a blind string or like the string you use in window
Okay.
fittings
Mhm.
from like a local hardware store. And then the only other thing is like screws if you need screws. But if you're going with some of them, they have mostly printed hardware. The string is really the most important thing to get.
Mhm. Okay.
And you can use any string, but that window blind style string is very narrow diameter and very strong.
Kind of like nylon.
Yeah, like a
Okay.
nice woven nylon string that's thinner.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think for us, the key was that it was less than we could source those three major parts, the foam, the string, and the screws, less than
Mhm.
we could source them for one-offs. But if you're getting like a maker space, if you're getting like a set of 10 and teaching people, I bet the economies of scale there, you could also buy the material locally pretty cheap.
Yeah, I'd imagine that. And also, I could probably have they do where volunteers can do classes, and I'm become just recently involved with their 3D printing department. So maybe that could be one of the classes I could put together because there is an organization I think called Spark that do
Yep.
something very similar. So I'm going to discuss it with them as well since they're a nonprofit.
Very cool. That
Awesome.
sounds like you're plugged in.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm curious, what type of machines do you have at your local makerspace, or what's the character of the services there?
They're very open source minds, so they've kept it all with Prusa mostly. There was some Crealis, but right now the Prusa seems the main ones. They have a Core XL large, which is one I'm playing with right now, which is like a 5 material head
Yep.
printer. And then they've got a few of the mini i3s, so a decent sizable amount, but I think they could probably there's room for improvement there. So I'm hoping to be more integrated there and try and push those improvements.
Cool. Cool. Sounds like you're off and running. And this new 3D mobility org is another great open source assistive hardware tech.
Mhm.
Although the barrier does seem like more material. Uh, so it's like sort of how do you scaffold up to that scale?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing. Like the chairman of that particular organization, he's hesitant to get into SLS printing, which is kind of my end goal is to eventually have like an SLS printer, which would kind of level that game up quite significantly.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's where I can push him in that direction. Hopefully at some point.
I sent a link there too for Makers Making Change if you haven't seen them before. They've
Mhm.
got a ton of open source assistive devices based on different use cases.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people who get started with e-NABLE find that like we obviously making hands for recipients is the highest bar, but often you design some hands and you realize what you need is a better doorknob. And
Mhm.
so they've got all sorts of devices for around the house, from the kitchen to the office to video gaming controllers.
Mhm.
And once you're working with a recipient, there's often things you can find here that might help adjust their built environment.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's obviously something I'm trying to teach myself how to do, like with Fusion 360 and do parametric modeling. So hopefully I could look into the design aspect as well, not just printing. But they
Definitely.
they have open nights, which is when I first started discussing this possibility with them. And typically those places you can do demonstrations, and I imagine there'll be quite a few also local makers that'd be interested in joining the processes too. So I'm hoping eventually, if there's enough people interested, I could form a chapter in this area. I
Very
can look
cool. Where in the world are you?
I'm in South Knoxville, Tennessee.
Cool.
Yeah, the accent is. I'm actually originally from England, but I've lived it here for like 20 something years now. So that's why I don't sound local.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
I'm just checking out some of these. There's some new stuff on Makers Making Change that I hadn't seen before. We had a group work on an assistive device controller for a local org here in Boston
Mhm.
this spring. And they did a couple different approaches, but one of them was using a joystick that a team already used locally that
Mhm.
kept breaking. And so they were looking on design it for easier repairability.
Mhm.
So it was like a off-the-shelf assistive joystick that was
Mhm.
rather expensive and had a part that was prone to breaking in the gimbal itself.
Hmm.
And they were looking at redesigning just that aspect so they don't have to keep replacing it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So usually we go around the room and we check in with everyone. We have a smaller cohort today. And then we think about from a new members or an educational use perspective, like do we want to talk about resources or machines or troubleshooting? Sort of a bunch of different ways this conversation can go. And it sounds like you're interested in scaling up your local makerspace from like Prusas maybe to more variety of material. I'm curious like what your roadmap would be, like what you'd be interested in investing in for machines.
Well, right now I want to see what I want to see how what the limitations are of the current machines they have, because they obviously will be makers rather than professional people who've been in the professional manufacturing industry, which I have myself. I had about 15
Yep.
years involved in either a petroleum tanker or hydraulic industrial manufacturing. So I have some experience there, which some of them are lacking, actually. And I would like to see if I could apply those like lean processing manufacturing principles to the mixed space and improve their abilities, and then scale from there. With with the hope in some time in the future, when I have that kind of means, I will be able to invest in such a printer myself. So
Yeah,
but that seems like a good proving ground where I can I can basically get my experience in making prosthetics, and also while improving their capabilities at the same time. So it seems like a win-win.
definitely.
Mhm.
In terms of SLS printers that you would head to, are you thinking about something like the Forum Labs Fuse 1?
That's the one. Yeah, that's what I've been
Yeah.
pricing. Yeah, it's quite a expensive piece of machines. Yeah, that's the exact one. Yeah.
But you get very durable finished goods off of it. It's very
Yeah,
impressive material.
yeah. I've seen some companies that use those kind of machines. I'm very impressed with the output, especially compared to like FDM printing. They're a lot more durable.
Yes. And the system is a little more self-contained
Mhm.
than the more industrial machines. We have
Yeah.
seen these pop up in a lot of schools in the Boston area because they're easier to maintenance the consumables and the cleanup and the post-processing around.
Yeah, like once you get the full integrated system and adequate ventilation, it's well contained system.
Yep. Would there be an intermediate step that you see? Would you scale up more Prusa? Would you go to another FDM machine before that SLS, or maybe try some SLA machines?
I mean, SLA, are they a viable option as far as that? Because they do have some, but they do have some issues getting them started because they don't have any adequate ventilation for those particular machines. So they're in the process of doing that. So right now, their machines are down, but I'm in the process of setting one of my home with some adequate ventilation, so I can actually get more familiar with that kind of things. But I'm not really experienced with that kind of material. But from what I understand, it's quite brittle, the regular PLA. But there are some tougher materials that you play with.
Yeah, well, so in the SLA, the cured resin space, the main scalability issue is the cost of material. I don't know if Jonathan and Tom agree, but for us, it's just more expensive, both
Mhm.
in time because you have finer layers that take a bit longer and require some human labor, but also just like the raw resins themselves. They do have a variety of high performance resins,
Mhm.
from flexible to more durable. Like the performance is quite good, but we only really use them in small batches. Like our use case is usually we'll do something in FDM for
Mhm.
fit and make sure that we have like a good fittage and a design file
Mhm.
before we move it to the cost, both in time and material of moving to resin.
So resin is more like the finished good when you need to require higher detail versus the actual fitting.
Yeah, and they do have some more biocompatible materials, some stronger materials.
Mhm. Does that require the specialized SLA printers, or can you do that on any kind of SLA printer? Because I know they do have medical prosthetics and orthodontics that use those kind of printers, don't they?
Yeah, I think if you're going into like orthodontics or things that are really like uh, interfacing with skin without some sort of foam in between,
Mhm.
some of these closed systems have a more variety of biocompatible materials.
Mhm.
But even the lower end systems have high performance material available.
Mhm. That'd be something I'd definitely be interested in pursuing as well. Then, especially with I've seen some of the prosthetics that are higher detail, like look like human hands. I suppose they would probably benefit from that material.
From the detail and the
Yeah,
time, yeah.
yeah. Like that. Was it like?
Although we find that for most of our use cases, we can do with FDM.
Okay.
I would say like 90+% of our fabrication comes off of an extruded plastic,
Yeah.
like consumer grade machine.
Well, thankfully, I do have a decent. I do have a decent machine at home. I have one of the Kelly K1 Maxes, which I'm actually about
Oh
to
yeah,
do
cool.
the hot end. So I do have some capability at home once that's up and running
Yep.
again. So yeah, I'm hoping to use that as well. And
We're
kind
our biggest problem now is scale. Like we want bigger machines.
of.
And it seems like every big machine we get is really hard to maintain, sort of a first principles problem. I know
Hmm.
Jonathan works on some of these machines a little higher end. I think that there are some better higher end stuff emerging. Uh, but we have had good luck with the K2 pluses. Uh, as a sort of like medium format, like a little
Hmm.
bigger, getting above 300 millimeters on a side. And we've
Hmm.
had some bad luck with some of the higher end larger machines. Once we get up to like 500 millimeters on the side or bigger,
Hmm.
just the stability problems, we can't maintain them as easily as the smaller machines.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was playing with the Survivos part, it has like one of it has a Prusa slicer file that's for like a 30 by 30, and for some reason I couldn't get it to work on a Core XY, which is like a lot bigger than that. So it was,
Yep.
and it so I basically had to spend a bit more time just doing my own print bed, and then just kind of working that way, and that was more successful. Dude, when I had a lot of failures, so you want to make it really kind of to the weakest link. You always make it whichever, no matter how, if you have an end of three, you could do this kind of thing. So that's this. But do you have like a wish list in mind of printers that I should project or go towards, like encourage them to buy in the future? That would be more if they
It's a
want to
great
be more.
question.
Yeah.
So we have to scale up a little bit at our university, and we're a Prusa shop today. And we picked Prusa both because it's an open source company, we like their ethics, but
Mm-hmm.
also because we really like Prusa Slicer, and it was more about teaching the software for us.
Mm-hmm.
We do see more and more students having bamboo machines as the consumer products they have at home if they have one,
Mm-hmm.
or we see more schools moving towards bamboo. And then I've always liked Creality products. I taught a class where the Ender 3 was the textbook for many years, and students would
Mm-hmm.
assemble it and then keep it. I do
Yeah.
think for the value, it's hard to beat the value in those
I,
machines.
yeah, I absolutely agree. That's my first machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of like a machine that does less for you.
Mm-hmm.
The analogy we use is like a stick shift versus an automatic. I
Mm-hmm.
think it helps you later, especially if we're teaching people in their first printers to know how to calibrate everything manually so that
Mm-hmm.
when an automatic calibration machine misbehaves, you sort of know more about where to look for it.
Yeah, I agree.
But
It definitely does feel like a lot of the machines are getting more user friendly, which is kind of raising the bar
yes.
a little bit.
And I think like existentially, there's a decision that makerspaces have to make.
Hmm.
And it sort of to me feels like computer labs in the 90s versus computer labs today. Like people used to want to take apart stuff and tinker and make it higher performance with
Hmm.
printers in makerspaces. And now people just want the output from the machine.
Hmm.
So it's really like what your community's imagination is around what they want to do with the machines.
Yeah. Well, I'd feel from what you just told me right there that your values and theirs are quite similar. So because they are all very Prusa and open source orientated. Like all the software in their entire shop, including the CNC, like they have CNC machines all running open source software, which is a good and bad thing in some ways.
Yeah.
Because it does limit you, but in the same way, they have the same values. So I think that will line up there, and hopefully they will be inclined to get different machines too. I've also considered Bamboo as well because they just released like a two nozzle printer that would be so you can use support,
Yes. Uh,
which will be a game changer as well. I
the
think
new X2D
that's the one. Yeah.
looks really interesting with a direct drive and a Bowden nozzle side by side.
Hmm.
Looks very cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of like we have a lot of decisions to make around software and ethics and manufacturing and cost and maintenance. But if you just want to make things, the Bamboos like really crank out a high quality product very fast.
Hmm.
And a lot of our staff, when they go home, if they have a machine to just make things, they don't want to tinker. If they've been tinkering all day,
Hmm.
they just get output on their bamboos. So I don't know if there's a one size fits all. It's sort of like what you want to make and what you want to teach your community around.
Hmm. It all depends on logistics and space as well. At home, something like a K2 or Bamboo. Yes, you'd like for one at home, but there you could have the bigger machines. And
Yeah.
especially if you have if you have people there who maintain and use them, then you get feedback.
So we have a hard decision to make this summer as we scale up a little bit
Hmm.
about what we invest in our new like teaching fleet. And it is a little different. We started as a community space where we supported mainly research projects that had less of a timeline or like co-curricular projects where they could have a few failures as long as it eventually worked.
Hmm.
And now we're doing direct teaching where students show up with a due date and an assignment and they
Hmm.
have to have something. Right, having a working machine available for them is much more important, and having it finish on time is much more important. So some of our design principles around our service offerings are getting reconfigured. I'd be curious, Jonathan, about where machines you're looking at. It's always cool to hear, and where you fall on the like, if you were going to get a classroom set of 20 or 40 machines, where you would start today.
Good questions. Um, so I am so obviously you know me a little bit, Ian. I'm a tinker at heart. I went all into the Voron community where you buy a
Yeah.
box of bolts and you make your own printer. You 3D print all the parts, you buy a box and you spend 80 hours putting it together and another 80 to actually tune it. Um, those are
What do you
great
think about
machines,
the
but
entry to Voron lowering? Do you think that like the Soval SV08 lowers the floor to getting started, then you could turn into a hot rod over time? Or would you still start
uh,
with the better parts?
I think it's tough. I just bought a used Elegoo Centauri carbon
Yeah,
from their website. It was like
it's amazing.
220
We've
bucks.
bought two of the big ones there for very good price.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 220 bucks shipped or whatever. It was a heck of a piece of equipment, but I am just not impressed with their software at all.
Yeah,
And like their macros setup. I tried to print, so I literally just got it yesterday. So I tried to print something out of ABS last night, and just their macros set up for like how they do the preheat and stuff like that. I was just
yeah,
not impressed. Like it aired out multiple times because the heated bed wouldn't heat up fast enough
yeah.
because it was
Timed out.
exhausting out all the chamber temperature while it was preheating.
Yep.
So like I already had to go into the slicer and start disabling stuff, which is not exactly a user-friendly thing.
Have you moved over
So
to Open Centauri?
no, I haven't. Like I said, I just got the printer yesterday, so it
Yeah.
was my first print trying to mess with it.
We need to print bigger things always. Well, there's a play. Like half of our community wants like 20 micron channels, and half of our community wants human scale objects. So there's no one size. But we bought a couple of those Neptune 4 Maxes from their used site, and we had some trouble getting them up and running, mainly because of like software and tweaking. And uh, they were in very good condition for a used product, but there was a fair bit of assembly and calibration for a machine that big. And now we're starting to get some very impressive good prints off of them. Steven, it's sort of like a large scale Ender 3. It's like a supersized Ender, where it really makes the Ender 3 look mini, but it's sort of the same architecture. Uh, and we're also moving more for these custom machines to just like tweaking an Orca slicer in-house so we can use a little more controllable slicer around it.
Mhm.
I got a Centauri Carbon to play with. I agreed it's like an incredible value. And I haven't moved to the Open Centauri software yet, but it's on my R&D roadmap this summer to try out. I've been mainly printing that as like a nylon printer because as a single nozzle with a nice enclosure, it sort of gave a dedicated nylon device.
I've heard that nylon's quite a pain in the ass material to play with, though. You've got to keep it constantly dried while you're printing.
Yes, it is extremely hygroscopic and deteriorates rapidly if you don't
Mm,
cool it. One of the hacks that's helped me a lot, Jonathan told us about, which was this nanopolymer adhesive. Because a lot of it is like that first layer adhesion and getting curling or separation from the build plate.
mhm,
And this was a hack where we've really gotten like many prints out of a single application, and it
mhm,
sticks and releases easily. Because any other thing that we had solved, like it was like bonded to the plate.
mm. Does it work for TPU? Because it doesn't mention that.
I haven't tried it on TPU.
I usually
I don't
just
know
use
if Jonathan has.
use
Yes,
like,
it does.
okay, because I usually use painter's
I
tape.
Yeah, I use it for absolutely everything.
I've been
Try.
really impressed with it uh, for nylons and like PET G and just having less like curling on the base layers.
Mhm. That's one of the reasons why I'd like to get one of those X2Ds, because you can use TPU with like a basically another support material.
Yes.
You can make more firm stuff, and because I've heard a lot of people using like the more firmer TPUs to make they're almost rigid when they do like fill in fill. So I'd like to play with that as well. I get
Yes.
a bit of flex to so to speak, a bit more
Yeah, and you can
durable.
really pick a different durometer of TPU, but then through infill and walls, really get a whole spectrum of different performance.
Yeah, I'd make something that's a bit more durable. Like even they can withstand a bit of you know flexibility.
Hey, Ian, just to add to the conversation. So I've got a H2D and I've got a X1C.
Yep.
And trying to use TPU on them is always a bit challenging because I've got these racks that I've built on top to hold multiple AMSs, and
Mhm.
you have to access the tool head and feed the TPU in manually. It's just
Yeah.
a cumbersome process. I've been really running ragged this SnapMaker U1, and it's been fantastic.
Mhm.
I fed in the softest TPU, and it had some issues with that. It was like uh, oh, the shore hardness was like 70. So I had issues there. And so I switched that to my A1, was able to print some foam pads for that chair that I'm working on. But as far as like TPU 90, 95, you just feed it in, little motors takes it right in. And with the four heads, you can do multiple different types of prints.
Mhm.
So far, it's been fantastic and
Very
very
cool.
minimal waste.
You're the first person we've talked to. I remember where you got this like pretty early on. And yeah, the multi-tool head has a lot of advantages. Looks really exciting.
Mhm.
I have heard though feedback wise that those multiple filament machines they have difficulty with TPU with the way they pull through. Like you want to be able to feed it straight to the hot end, not to the actual through the Bowden tube and PTFT tubes
Right.
because it stretches it a lot.
Exactly. And then with the setup, depending on how you have it set up, if you've got AMSs on top of your printers and that kind of thing, being able to have access to that top plate, the glass plate to remove it to get into the tool head is just a cumbersome process. It's not impossible, but like the A1, I was using the external spool feeder. It's very
Mhm.
simple. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
And
actually.
this,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say just that the SnapMaker is for direct drive nozzles, right? Do you get that advantage?
that's correct. Mhm.
Mhm.
The only booger with that one is it does not have a drying mechanism. They're still working on the
Right.
hood. A young guy from Asia developed a little these boxes that you can mount to the side, and I've achieved 15% humidity rates. It's a really great design, and that his designs up on the makerspace.
So you're just
Nothing,
putting some
nothing yours.
desiccant in a box?
Well, it's let me see if I'll get a picture of it here. Bear with me one second.
Because I have a machine set up at work where I have a filament dryer feeding into an A1 AMS,
Mhm.
which is sort of takes up a lot of desk space but works.
Mhm.
Right. I'm
I'm
trying to
actually
figure
about
out how
to
to.
I'm gonna just install up one of those pulley systems above my K1 so I could do that and just feed it straight into the
Yeah,
hot. Yeah, because
that's
that's
cool.
the safest way to do it without pulling. And I got one. I got one of the was it the unicorn ceramic heat hot ends, so they're more consistent heat flow.
Nice.
Yeah, so hopefully that should work pretty
How was
good.
the upgrade? Was that just like a direct swap in?
It's basically you got to replace the hot end and you got to press a motherboard too if you get the newer one. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like an upgrade to the hot end or the extruder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a difficult process.
I see we also got the Voron Phoenix link from Jonathan here.
Hmm.
What do you like about this machine? Just it looks really big.
Okay, that's quite a nice one.
Yeah, massive Voron architecture.
Mhm.
We have a bigger one, sort of this scale, the Gigabot 4 that we have to do some maintenance on this summer and get back running. Might do some upgrades on it.
I was able to get a picture of that into the chat.
Oh,
But
wow, look at that. That's
yeah,
super clean.
it really is.
Wow, and no active cooling, just insulation.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah,
the top cover pops off, and it's got a desiccant box underneath. And
nice.
again, I'm
Wow.
at 15%. And this has been for 3 days.
And it has a little spot for a monitor in there. That's cool.
Mhm.
Very
It's a
nice upgrade.
great design. Yeah, and it wasn't hard to print out and put together. You use TPUs, as a matter of fact, for the gasket, and uh, and then I just filled in with some
That's
silicone
so
just to make
cool.
sure it was
Do you have a
airtight.
link to that file or know what it's called?
I'll dig it up real quick while we're talking.
Yeah, very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, we definitely want to do some of these hot rod mods this summer when we have some time.
Mhm.
there's always a pull between standards and having throughput and having like nice performance material. Our makerspace went from 50 different types of 3D printers
Mhm.
in 2014 to 2015. We had 50 different manufacturers' machines, which became like huge technical debt and difficult to upkeep. We still have most of those machines. And now we're doing a adopt a printer program where like an enthusiastic student can mod them. And so we'll have a couple like hot rods coming out, like that Soval SV08 is a newer one, an older one. We have a Maker Gear M2, which is one of my favorites ever that I think we've got to do some upgrades on. And I'd really like to do another one with the what is it called? We have a couple of these like really strange gantry systems that we'd like to upgrade.
Hmm.
But there's always that push between having easily maintenanceable uptime and a variety of materials. We did move our primary makerspace to PLA only for that reason. It's because
Mhm.
it's easier to keep the machine standing tall day after day with like a couple hundred people using them.
Mhm. I'm in the process of like basically massively modifying a Ender 3 to do the same thing. I've added like I took the Bowden tube and added to like all direct drive with like a hinge, and I'm adding a extra
Cool.
Z rod, and then also wireless and camera monitoring capabilities too. And
Yep.
they're quite easy. They're quite easy upgrades to do. So it'd be something that's easily accessible.
Using
Yeah.
Octoprint or something.
Oh no, Crayly actually have a wireless bridge you can use. It
Oh
adds
yeah.
adds
Yep.
a camera on the wireless bridge, so you can do it on their Crayly cloud app. It's quite impressive.
It's really cool.
Yeah. That lets you turn an ender into like a a catch-all machine. You can do like exotic materials, or you can do glass print beds, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. So one of the my favorite old one that I'd really like to refurb is a Type A machine. If you ever saw one of those, uh, they are no longer a company, I believe, but their gantry system is just unbelievable and would be really fun to do like a Voron part upgrade to. It was one of the early printers where it just was solid and worked. Oh, and there's the Maker World link. Very cool to this external filament dryer box for the Snapmaker.
Yeah, really impressive.
Really cool. Does that white cover also printed, the one that goes on top, or does that come with it?
Uh, that's another kit that's out there that
Yep,
you could download and print your own. But they're supposedly coming out with theirs, which is going to have a fan and a dryer built in.
very cool.
Hmm.
No, it looks like a great machine. Trying to
I
organize
love
these links.
I like the fact that there's so little wasted filament with it. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, because you don't purge between color swaps.
right.
Does it still do like a purge tower for any dripping on an active nozzle?
When there's multiple colors, yes.
Yeah,
But even
but
the
that's
purge
it.
tower is a bit less than the standard one on
Yeah, just a
the
quick
bamboo.
wipe. Yep,
Yeah,
that's cool. And does it, I forget, does it use its own proprietary slicer or using a profile in like a common tool?
their own. It's a version of Orca. It's a
Yep,
little clunky, and that's where they're definitely behind compared to bamboo. But they're making headway. They keep pushing out updates for their app.
very cool. So that's sort of our machine conversation for the day, unless Jonathan has another hot rod that he's interested in. Uh, but we could also move on to like what the next thing is everyone's making. It sounds like uh, this wheelchair. I just saw when we were looking through machines, it's on the top of Bamboo Labs page as well. So it looks like they're getting some press,
I think they're a
which
big
is great.
sponsor for it. Hmm.
Yep. So that's definitely something that we need to try out. Steven, sounds like you're on your way to a Phoenix V3 hand, perhaps?
Yeah, that's correct.
Exciting.
Mhm.
Jonathan, are you working on anything these days?
Um, mm, yes and no. I'm kind of off and on doing stuff. just manufacturing engineering stuff. Like we had some interesting one of our TPU parts that basically gets bumped into by our product while it's on the roll forming line. The TPU started breaking down prematurely with chemical. It's kind of like a glycol based coolant. So I'm kind of trying to tackle that to see if I could try like TPE or maybe
Mm.
another sort of TPU that would resist the chemical a little bit better.
So I have a bit of a printing dilemma that might be good to talk through. Uh, we have a couple classes that like to print biomolecules. One of our first things that came out of our makerspace was for the NIH's 3D print exchange on how to render biomolecules for printing in PLA. So taking a data set from the protein data bank and now from the electron microscopy data bank and then getting it ready to print. And these are like super printer torture tests, right? Because they're the opposite of design for manufacturing. They're like insane structures that need a tremendous amount of support. And so, as part of the grant to support that class, we did buy one of the H2 series printers to allow for multi-support material. And we've had a lot of trouble keeping that running. And I wonder if anyone has any ideas.
What are you using, Ian? Are you doing the PETG supporting PLA or something like that?
It's pretty simple. It's just two PLAs. Sorry, losing my voice a bit, but it's just two PLAs. So we can see the support has a different color. And
Gotcha.
we're having like failure issues during the color swaps.
I I've had real good luck using PETG as a support for PLA because it doesn't adhere. I don't know if that could help, but if you're saying that the color swaps, that could
Yeah,
be the
getting better
issue.
support that's removable. Our problem
Yeah.
has been the color swaps of it jamming because it's doing so many color swaps. Imagine printing like a coral reef full of supports. Like that's sort of what these structures look like.
Uh,
And so
what
we've
size bed do you need?
as big as possible. So basically, they want to be able to hold it and show people, like, I'm researching this structure, and this is how it interacts with other biochemical processes. So they want to
Gotcha.
show the part. So that's why we moved up from the smaller printers, was to get a little bit of a larger object that illustrates what they want. So sort of moving from like baseball or softball to like more like softball to basketball kind of sized.
Gotcha. I wish you had one of these snap makers. This sounds ideal um, for that kind of
Sounds
dual
like the right
filament.
machine for the
Hmm.
multi-material. So we have
Hmm.
to do some of that R&D, and we'll get some trial units to figure out the right thing. But the H2 series, we put them out in public and we just had a lot, we had a lot of success on simple prints, big prints. But when we got to this like really advanced, like things with nooks and crannies with lots of swaps per layer, we were having difficulty getting them to not jam on the filament swaps. Ooh, what's this Elegoo? Oh yeah. So our one of our makerspace friends down the street in Waltham, the collaboratory at the Charles River Museum has one of these, and every time I go by, it's running. And it's such a hack. It's got four build plates of their big printers that just snap together.
Yeah, it's like multi-film, multi-head printing at the same time. It's quite impressive.
Have you seen one in the wild? I was surprised. Usually these big printers are, we see
I
them
would,
in places hard to
I've,
maintain.
I've seen videos, but I've not seen one in person. But I would like to see one of these because that's quite for the price. It's not actually that bad.
We could ask the Charles River Museum to come on next month and like demo, like,
Hmm.
because I know they've done some upgrades. They had trouble getting the bed to heat, so they had to do some like changing the heating elements or I think the power supplies that feed those heating elements.
Yeah, but I can imagine them being quite handy for like doing. If you're going to do like a full leg, you could do basically the whole print on one bed on one plate.
Yes. That was our thought was some of these bigger machines we can make things at human scale a lot easier.
Hmm.
And this is like 1/10 of the price of the next cheapest meter sized printer.
Yeah, considering like the Prusa, which is like 500 by 500 by 500, that's like 4 grand just for the basic one.
Yep.
This
Well, and
one's
then you get into big rep, which is like a 30 to $50,000 printer, or gigabots, which are like starting to hit 20K for this scale. It's
Mhm.
unbelievable what they've been able to do with the hardware.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would really like one. I don't have a space to fit one publicly. It just takes up too much floor space.
Yeah, that would be my bedroom right there. It's like a heated bed.
But yeah, the Charles River Museum, if you're ever in Boston, is a really unique Industrial Revolution space. It's at on Moody Street in Waltham, and it's one of the first places where Francis Cabot Lowell did the R&D into how to make textiles at scale, and Paul Moody was his engineer, who figured out going from cotton to fabric in one manufacturing facility. And so they have a museum with all of that technology, but they've done a bunch of work through Boston College to put together a public makerspace called the Collaboratory. I can put their link in, and they work a lot with the local high school, and their whole program is like high schoolers teach junior high students how to be the technicians, and then they support the whole community's use, and they pay all their technicians even when they're learning.
Mhm.
And they have one of these that every time I go there is running, which is impressive for a big machine.
Mhm.
Well, I'll suggest this one to the Zarina of the 3D printing department, see if she's interested in game.
Well, if
It's
she
not
wants to Zoom with them, they're the only space I know that like has one out in public.
I'll
I'll put their
send.
link here. And they're a very open source education based makerspace. I'm sure they'd want to Zoom and talk about what they do.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they're definitely very interested in seeing those.
But yeah, we've used gigabots at other facilities that we can get access to, and have had some hit or miss. Like when it works, it's a beautiful print, but it's very difficult to calibrate. And some of this I don't think is the manufacturer's. It's sort of like a first principles problem,
Mhm.
where like everything gets more wiggly the bigger it gets. And the build plates have some shape deformation. Like they sort of taco into like almost like a Pringles chip shape
Mhm.
when you heat them.
It's interesting.
Jonathan, are there any sci-fi printers you're thinking of on a larger scale? I'm always curious.
Just that Voron Phoenix. I'm really excited for that one to come out.
Do you know what their release date is?
No. They say it should be later this year, but they've been saying that for like 2 to 3 years now.
Yep,
If
that's
you watch that
exciting.
video, they talk about it a little bit. They had issues in the development. They redesigned basically the whole gantry. As the chamber heats up, the X gantry actually expands enough where it would cause issues. So like that's
That's crazy.
such a hard concept to get over with those big format printers.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones that the lowest cost ones other than that Elegoo that I've seen are these gigabots, which are quite expensive, but they do scale up. The company seems great. Like we worked with them a bunch. But again, it's difficult to maintain. And especially like I do think these are ones where they sort of just need a caretaker, right? You need some sort of expert to be running the machine, unlike some of these smaller printers where you can sort of put a dozen of them out, have 100 people use them, and they kind of work. And the Gigabot does specifically have two nozzles, and their main profile is PETG support with PLA print, which we that's the main place we've done that. I don't know why we didn't do that. Oh, we didn't do that in our makerspace because it's a PLA shop. Maybe I should bring the team the idea that we should just move over to that and see if we get more throughput.
What about the Gigabox X2, which is used one? It looks like it uses grinding or pellets.
The pellet base where it has an auger, like direct pellet to print. Very cool.
Yeah, like it'd be really nice because it says recycled pellets. So like, there's always another thing I discussed with the runner of the department was recycling PLAs. If it's kind of a pain in the ass because you got to
It's
sit there and
terrible.
sort.
We've tried for years and haven't had. If I think if you're going to filament, it's hard. If you have one of these direct auger like pellet to nozzle systems, I think that's maybe more maintainable.
Well, this one says uses recycle and virgin pellets as well. So there's like a way you could like do basically, you can codify your materials and just use the same material on it. You could
Yep.
just recycle most of it, kind of same way you do with the SLS printing. You have a certain amount of reclaim
Yep.
to to reduce cost.
That's really cool.
Yeah, especially when you're at the prototyping phase, because you don't have to worry about so much about how long it's going to last if you're just trying to fit it. So you
Yep.
can use all the recycled material, save cost.
Does
Very nice.
anyone know of a facility that's currently doing recycled PLA? We're always trying to vet them to see if they actually like put it back into products. We used to have a really good company in Massachusetts that would take our scrap and give us back spools of like purpley brown material. They
It's
sort of mixed it all together.
I think a lot of them failed because this wasn't cost effective to
Yeah.
have people. It's something you have to do on local to yourself, basically.
Yep. I know there's a couple companies trying to come to market with some good like desktop filament recycling. We haven't seen one that's like super functional yet.
Creality, I think, is the closest.
The best use that I've seen, there's a team at Olin College in Needham, Massachusetts, that is baking down their printer scrap into sheet material that's laser cuttable, and it's like beautiful tie-dyed sheet material.
That is a good idea. There's a company in the UK called the Brothers Make. They've been doing it with like shampoo and detergent bottles. They'll grind them down
Oh,
and inject
cool.
them into like sunglass frames, cones, buttons, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. I'll put their link in. That's such a great idea.
That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, very very similar swirly material. I kind of
Mhm.
like how they curate that. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's got a nice finish, and it's quite. You could do something similar with PLA. You can like melt it down and do it into molds, but it's.
Yep. Oh yeah, what a great use of a recycled material. There are a couple companies nationally that we were trying to figure out like how much reclaimed material they use. That they do something like Trex decking, like the compressed plastic decking
Yeah,
for
composite.
like bench chairs or like lumber replacement. Anyway, we can sequester some of that plastic or carbon.
Hmm.
I haven't seen Brothers Make though. What a really cool material.
Hmm. Yeah,
And then the Creality one you're talking about is they're crowdfunded.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, put that in here too. Curious for when that comes out. We've tried, we had one of the early Philobot machines, and it worked okay, but we could only do like, we never did hundreds of meters of material. We do just like a small part run, more of a proof of concept than like production.
Hmm. I've seen ones that have done out of the water balls too, where it'll do shreds and it'll make it into like a kind of usable material, but it's not anything fantastic. But you can basically 3D print a water bottle.
That's cool. Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole challenge was not just maintaining 1.75 or 3 whatever millimeter 285. It was the keeping it a circle.
Hmm.
It wants to create an oval.
Yeah. I would like to if the time allows me, I would like to make one of those little machines that kind of just makes like a little grinder and filament spool just for fun, just as a proof of concept.
Yeah, and I think like making vases, like you said, or containers,
Hmm.
like spiral vase mode, impressive print, something like that is a good
Hmm.
use case.
Yeah, definitely.
Our other big push this summer is going to be, some more updating our 3D scanning methodology. I'm curious if anyone else plays around with any of the scanning methods, particularly in e-NABLE for mapping upper limb difference. I know there is a team working on that this summer that I'm excited to see where they go. One
I'm
of the
not in,
new,
but I'm always interested in trying to find ways to do that. I'd use that Polycon app on the iPhone for a while
yep,
that used the
to get
LiDAR.
some nice basic data.
I
Yeah.
I have one of the Ferret Pros from
Yep.
Crowley kind of play with. Yeah.
Are you getting good results with the Creality scanner?
I've the few times I've played with it, yeah, I've had fantastic results. I've just kind of got a consistent kind of method, and kind of see the limitations because they're quite basic compared to the bigger ones.
Maybe next meeting we could focus on 3D scanning as where we start the conversation
Mhm.
and see if people have some ideas around that. Maybe Sarah, I could write up a blurb and we could put that in the meeting notes for next time.
Yeah, that would be great. And also, since we're running out of time, can I ask you when you think you might be able to do the meeting
What
next
would
month?
be a good next meeting time? I'm pretty flexible for a June
Um,
timeline.
uh, Thursday at noon, and June 25th is taken, but right
How about
now
the
all the
18th?
other. Okay.
Cool.
Um, yeah. sure.
So if everyone wants to come back in a little over a month on June 18th, we can meet at noon and start the conversation on 3D scanning methods.
Sounds good.
And maybe
Um,
we could also talk about how to take those 3D shapes into a design where we can work with like an open source device and merge the two.
Sounds good.
okay.
I put a
Um,
teaser in. There's a piece of technology we've been playing with uh, called Telus. Oh, sorry, that's my collection. I want to not give you mine. I want to give you the official one. uh, so Telus is a 2D image to 3D image tool that Microsoft made that is super impressive. And so one of our questions for this other school's EPICS team at ASU is, can they take, what's the minimum data set of photos that they can input to get a 3D model with? And I think that number is diminishing from thousands to hundreds to dozens to maybe one or two, which is really exciting. Sorry, Sarah, did you want to wrap us up?
sure. Um, so, um, yeah, if you could just send me a sentence that I could add,
Yeah,
for the calendar, that'd be great. This is cool. I don't think I got all of the links you shared, but I collected a lot of them and I'll add them as a comment on the calendar underneath the recording. Um,
perfect.
and yeah, there's Tainara, our global health leader at e-NABLE, has a healthcare meeting coming up at noon next Thursday, May 21st. And then on the
Cool.
28th at 11:30 a.m., we have a town hall meeting where we'll go over more posts from the hub. And at noon, we have a chapter leaders meeting with John Scholl. And then, yeah, I guess I'll see you all again at part 2 of this education meeting on June 18th. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna leave my email here for Stephen. If you have any, if you ever have any questions, you can email me too. And
Absolutely.
um, if I don't know the answer, I will probably know the person who does. So,
Awesome. Thank
um,
you.
yeah.
Thank you,
Um,
everyone, for a great conversation on this Thursday, and we'll see you in another month.
okay.
See you then.